Welcome back to Genes, Microbes, and AI, revolutionizing infection control and counseling. I'm your host, Saakshi, and I'm so excited to wrap up our series with an episode that's close to my heart. We have explored predicting outbreaks, fighting superbugs, gut brain connections, and real time infection tracking. Those episodes are must listens if you haven't caught them yet. Today, for our final episode 5, we are tackling a topic that ties it all together: ethics and equity, AI, infections, and accessible genetic counseling. We'll dive into the ethical challenges of using AI for infection control and microbiome research, like privacy and access, and how genetic counseling ensures everyone gets informed, equitable care. Joining me one last time is the brilliant Dr. Sukant Khurana, a neuroscientist and data science expert who's passionate about making science work for everyone. Dr. Khurana, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Sakshi. Ethics and equity are where rubber meets the road, as they say in US. AI is only as good as the fairness it brings. I'm pumped to begin.
I love that. Fairness is the goal. Let's jump right in. AI is doing incredible things from tackling infections to decoding microbiomes. But it's not all rosy, right? There are big ethical questions, especially when we are dealing with sensitive stuff like genetic data. Can you start by outlining what some of these ethical challenges are?
Okay, one big challenge is privacy. AI needs tons of data like your genome or microbiome to predict infections and suggest treatments. That data can be misused if it is not protected, unlike by insurers or employers. Another issue is consent. Do patients really understand what they are sharing? And there is equity. AI tools are often built from data from wealthier Western populations, so they may not work as well for diverse groups. Though I'm not very fond of the older solutions for equity, and that gets political. I like to avoid the territory which is there. The end goal of providing everyone healthcare must be met, and not get into the issues which become politically sensitive, and find a solution that works for whether it's someone wealthy or poor, from originally of European descent, Central Asian descent, South Asian, Middle Eastern, African descent, Native American descent. We need to make it work for everyone, men, women, everyone. Right? So everywhere AI should make the world a fairer, better world, but not a controlled world. There is again a political, philosophical thing that would you prefer freedom over fairness? Milton Friedman will argue that, and I'll also lean in that direction. So all these terms are sort of loaded, and they are becoming even more loaded as the political landscape globally is changing, because every system, whether it's on the right, whether it's on the left, nothing is perfect. It brings its own set of problems. Globalization brought a lot of solutions, it brought in a lot of problems, including the infectious diseases, so people's movement, goods movement. Urbanization brought in a lot of solutions, it brought a lot of problems also with population density. So nothing is perfect, neither are these terminologies. So equity is a very loaded one, but when we think of equity like you and I are talking, right, not the political connotation, it becomes very important where we simply mean fairness. We are not leaning politically on the left or right. We are saying everyone should get access to AI without their data being controlled, without their lives being controlled.
Those are heavy concerns. I mean, I'd be nervous about my DNA floating around somewhere or wondering if AI is even built for someone like me. Let's focus on privacy first because that feels so personal. How do we make sure AI driven infection control, like tracking superbugs, keep our data safe?
Privacy is non-negotiable. Practices include anonymizing the data. So your genome is just a code, not your name, and using secure encrypted system for storage. That's it. Um, Even with these measures, it gets quite complicated. Some of the genomic company data has been leaked. In some cases, people have been identified back. So it has to be done with a re-look at all the issues, with how do you even share the data, where even exchange between of data, how that is secured, maybe through blockchain. There are ways, there are solutions. The real issue is if there is a will to ensure the solution. Some AI models like federated learning, which analyze data locally, like in a hospital, without sending it to a central server, are part of a great part of solutions. The regulations like GDPR in Europe or HIPAA in US set strict rules too. I was even covered in Forbes US for discussion on GDPR in the context of Canada, where my opinions were sought. Uh, and even that is far from perfect. It is very good in ensuring privacy, but there is an overburden of regulation. So, everything has its own challenges when it comes. It's a constant battle. Hackers are clever, right? So systems have to stay one step up here to prevent data leaks. Regulators can be overcautious or sometimes unprepared. One has to prepare. So it's a 360-degree problem which needs 360-degree solutions.
That's reassuring, but yeah, it sounds like a cat and mouse game. Now let's talk about genetic counseling because that's what makes this human. If I'm worried about my data being used for AI research, say to track infections, how does a counselor help me navigate those fears?
Counselors are your advocates. They'll sit with you and explain, Sakshi, here's your data. How's your data being used? Like to spot resistant bugs, and here's how it is protected, like encryption. They would walk you through consent forms, making sure you know your rights, like opting out. They'll also check in on your comfort level. Maybe you're okay sharing microbiome data, but not your whole genome. It's about trust and clarity, so you feel empowered and not pressured.
That trust is everything. I'd feel so much better knowing someone's looking out for me. Let's shift to equity because that's a huge issue. You mentioned AI is often built on Western data, which could leave out whole communities. How does that affect infection control or microbiome research, and what's being done to fix it?
Yeah, it's a real problem, even in Western data. To be honest, now there is mixing in Europe, Australia, Canada, and US. But don't think people as white is ignoring the underlying genetic diversity. Now and that's currently the best represented data. But that too needs to go, think of it as a video game level one needs to get to the video game level seven or nine, to the final stage. It needs a lot of work. Asian populations are even way, way behind. European population, African populations are even much more behind, other than some Afro-American overall mixed data from US, which is in a better state than what you have from African nations. But that's sampling from some population and with huge mixing. So global picture for Asian populations which have Austronesian, Australoid, Mongoloid groups, which were originally classified, Negrito groups, all of the genetic diversity of Africa being greater than the rest of the world. That's missing Middle Eastern, Central Asian data, Native American data, Polynesian, Melanesian data, that's underrepresented. So genome diversity and what is happening as of yet, people, when they see academicians love publishing papers. So sequencing anything is easy. So when they see opportunity, they'll say, oh, this community is underrepresented, I'll sequence it. They'll dump out the sequence without analyzing it. So one is a problem of lack of enough data. Second is a bigger problem is there aren't enough people who understand how to analyze the data. So in biology, there may be 100 times or 1,000 times more data than has been properly analyzed. Right? So that's a very big problem. AI is trained on European microbiomes, European genomes, right? It would miss patterns from other populations, like unique resistance genes or that bacteria. I mean, as a pointer, I recently was having a conversation about how Tiptons, with their some mix from even Denisovan mix being slightly higher, um, uh, in addition to all the Asian European populations which have Neanderthal mix. So that Denisovan mix probably contributes to the oxygen ability to survive in low oxygen and bigger lung capacity and all those things. But that is well known. But we were trying to think of how that corresponds to overall body microbiome changes. And is it just the environment, overall physiology, or even the genes from Denisovans? So that is a very rich topic and resulted in some interesting back and forth with an American and a Chinese colleague, ex-colleague from Coldstream Harbor time. So there is a lot that has to be done to fix it. All these things. I just use one example. Now you can take sickle cell anemia from India. You can take unique populations, let's say from very near Hyderabad area. A lot of interesting papers. You can take how big of a genetic diversity that is there. Even in Indian mountains, you go from one valley to another, you get a different ethnic group. To fix it, researchers are pushing diverse data sets, sequencing samples from underrepresented regions. It's just a start, and currently it's being done as sequence and dump approach mostly, rather than analyze. Global collaborations like WHO resistant tracking help too. With the current funding thing, they are currently shaky. Community engagement, listening to local needs, which ensures AI is built for everyone, not just few, is very much needed. This change hasn't started happening much in India. When I used to be professor in India, mostly professors were busy doing politics, burdened with this, burdened with what director wants, burdened with PhD students, and the PhD students were oppressed with other things being underpaid. So I saw the system not really engaging with the community it was in. When I was at ISIL Kolkata, I engaged heavily with local community despite not being Bengali. In fact, I was told by someone saying, "Ye tumhara desh to nahi hai. This is not your country, region." So the regionalism is so strong that since I'm not a Bengali, I was told, why am I bothered to reach out to community and engage with them? When I was doing things for their diet patterns, we looked at a lot of things, published few. We have actually a lot of data from that time, and we looked at their diets, where we found 64 new plants that they consume, new in the sense they're not consumed in Western Hemisphere, they're not consumed much in North India. So that remains unpublished. We looked at how another thing, which is colocasia, esculenta, or alocasia, which are these tuberous things, how they are consumed, and looked at some health outcomes. We couldn't really get to the microbiome part, which we were really interested in those terms, and we did a massive survey, more than 10,000 people. We did things for arsenic, and again, microbiome part was less, but arsenic in terms of how even hair has arsenic in it once it's in region. So we did a lot of these local engagement things, and my eventual interest by the time I joined IGIB was completely down to zero, because I realized the more you engage with community, the more somehow the typical academics feel they are not part of them. So it's a horrible problem, cultural problem. In the US, I've seen, like I'm currently an affiliate professor in a place, University of Colorado, joining actually 5 or 6 more places over the next 1 year, which is in making. There is a lot of emphasis in community outreach. Are you serving local community? Is science built just for academia, just to publish dumb paper, which may even be fudge, or you're doing science, which actually makes genuine difference? I know your excitement about India and you want to make the difference. I would wish and pray that you all the power to people like you who can make a difference. I try to. And at least from academic setting, I gave up. Entrepreneurship, there is a possibility because you're not tied to the petty politics of academia. But, so these are sort of the broad issues. One is, very long answer, one is not enough Europe, not too much European data in the fraction sense. In real sense, not even enough European data. But very poor data from African, Asian populations, Native American populations. So that's one thing. Community engagement is missing. International bodies have failed. It's not just that their funding has been cut. I would myself question the performance of a lot of international health bodies. So currently there are a lot of challenges, but there is hope also. So there are a lot of challenges which come in the way of equity.
That's so critical. Science should lift everyone up. Genetic counseling seems like a perfect way to bridge that gap. How are counselors making sure AI's benefits, like infection tracking or microbiome therapies, reach diverse groups fairly?
Counselors are key to equity. They translate AI's finding like a best for a superbug into advice that fits into your culture, language, and resources. For example, in a rural clinic, counselor might use AI data to suggest affordable prevention steps like hygiene practices instead of pricey drugs. There is also very important aspect that they are advocate for access, pushing for low cost testing or telehealth counseling. So underserved communities aren't left behind. It's about meeting people where they are. I'm aware of some efforts. Uh, there is a not a close friend, there is an acquaintance, Vishal Rao, who was doing things not in the context of microbiome, but he was taking cancer diagnosis through ASHA workers and through drones to people. So he was democratizing a lot of cancer diagnosis access. I wish people will do more of that and will democratize sort of microbiome and genetic testing access also and reach to everyone.
Meeting people where they are. That's beautiful. Can you share an example of how AI and counseling are tackling these ethical or equity issues in the real world? Like, where's this actually making a difference?
Sure. In 2024, a project in South Africa used AI to track Mycobacterium tuberculosis drug resistant TB. The AI analyzed local genomic data, but privacy was a concern. Counselors worked with community explaining data protections in local languages and ensuring consent was informed. They also use AI's insight to guide patients on affordable treatments like generic drugs, cutting TB, spread by 15% in high risk areas. It showed how ethics and equity can go hand in hand.
A 15% drop. That's huge for communities fighting TB. It really shows how counseling can make AI inclusive. Let's talk about access because that's part of equity. Not everyone has a fancy hospital nearby. How can AI and counseling make infection control, like tracking superbugs, accessible to more people?
Access is the goal. AI is getting cheaper. Portable sequencers can now analyze infections in remote clinics. Feeding data to cloud-based AI telehealth is a game changer too. Counselors can guide patients via video explaining AI results like infection risks without needing a big hospital. Partnerships like NGO funding mobile health units are spreading this to rural areas. It's not perfect yet. It's expanding fast, and there are various aspects there of how things are funded and all. But there is hope with telehealth.
Telehealth and mobile units. I love how that brings care closer to home. Okay, let's talk tech for a sec. Are there specific AI approaches helping with these ethical challenges like protecting privacy or improving equity?
Yes, tech is evolving. For privacy, federated learning I mentioned earlier keeps data local. For equity, transfer learning lets AI model trained on one population adopt to others with less data. Great for underrepresented groups because fundamentally humans are genetically alike, not homogeneous, but they have high homogeneity, let's say, compared to some other animal groups. Let's say if you have to analyze genetic diversity in some chimpanzee population, there'll be a lot more than humans. So despite the population size being smaller. So humans as great apes, as mammals, have relatively less genetic diversity. Transfer learning is an AI approach. For those who may not know, you train on one data set extensively, and then you take that to another data set where you may not have as much data, and then you train it on another. Because most of the principles are same, most of the things are same. You are able to make the AI learn on a new data set with limited data. So transfer learning is a key to take brilliant models being done by innovative countries in North America, especially USA, Europe, and now to some extent China, and do transfer learning to parts of the world where technology or data is not as much present, and with lesser data, train them to bring in equity. Now, let's move to other thing also. Explainable AI is a very big thing because that makes models transparent. So your counselors can tell patients, this is why AI flagged this risk, because instead of being black box. So these tools build trust and fairness into the system.
Explainable AI, that's so important for making it feel human, not like a black box. How close are we to getting this right? Like, is ethical, equitable, AI driven care already happening, or is it still a work in progress?
It's a mix in places like Canada, Scandinavia. Ethical AI is in action. Hospitals use secure systems and counselors prioritize consent and access. Not in a big way, in a very, very minor way. I've been involved in suggesting things and being advisor in some of this thing in Canada. And I'm very thankful in terms of the coverage even and the other things I've gotten out of it. Um, I would love to see those kind of things happen in India. I would love to see that happen in other Western hemisphere. So consent and access is important, and but there is also the other side is too bureaucratic. So I always see it as sort of like the two double-edged sword. That globally, this is uneven. Poorer regions lack infrastructure, cultural barriers, slow trust. But initiatives like open source AI and global health partnerships are pushing forward. In 5 to 10 years, I think ethical, equitable care with AI and counseling will be the norm, not an exception.
5 to 10 years. That's hopeful. What's the biggest hurdle we need to overcome to get there?
Trust is the tougher. Patients fear data misuse, communities worry AI is not for them, education is key. Counselors need to demystify AI and show it's safe and inclusive. And this trust can be eroded in societies where there is infighting. If people are fighting different ethnic groups, putting one above another, there is mistrust, right? People even mistrust a doctor, mistrust a counselor, mistrust their government. So politics, society, culture are an important part. Even how doctors operate, whether they are operating for too much profit or are they being reasonable. And doctors are the front-facing people, or counselors are the big chains behind them being reasonable, or the alternative model, which is just built for public but not having enough facilities, which is usually the government model, is that even capable of handling? So it's a complex problem requiring complex thing. And the other big issue, in addition to trust, is funding. Funding, another big hurdle, right? Equity means investing in tech and training for underserved areas. I have seen in India that you need to belong to certain gangs, certain groups, and there is huge corruption in purchase of instruments. People want grants so that they can buy instruments, even if they have multiple instruments, like they'll buy 10 different versions or something, which will not even be opened. So money is being misused on the name of equity. So there is funding issue, there is funding utilization issue. And we need global standards, rules, everyone agrees on privacy and fairness. It's a tall order, but it's doable eventually.
Doable. That's the spirit. Let's end with a vision for the future. If we nail the ethics and equity of AI and counseling, what could infection control and healthcare look like in a decade from now?
Imagine a world where AI tracks infections or microbiomes instantly anywhere. City, hospital, or rural clinic. A counselor explains your risk using your genes and local data in a way that feels personal and safe. Privacies are included, and everyone, every community, every background has access to tailored care, whether it's a superbug plan or a gut health care. It's healthcare that's fair, informed, and empowering, with AI and counseling as equal partners.
That's the future I want to believe in. Dr. Khurana, thank you for breaking down this complex topic and giving us so much hope. To our listeners, I hope you are as inspired as I am by this vision of fair, ethical care. This wraps our series, but the conversation's just starting. Revisit our episodes on outbreaks, superbugs, and more and share them with someone curious. I am Saakshi, and this has been Genes, Microbes, and AI, revolutionizing infection control and counseling. Stay curious and let's build that equitable future together.